This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Tonight, we'll get a first look at the investigation into the January 6th insurrection. Coming up, what you can expect from those primetime hearings and a look at the local cases connected to the attack.
Plus, Portland Public Schools is diversifying its curriculum, what they're doing to pay closer attention to inclusion and representation in every lesson. Then,
check out these guys. How cute are they? Really cute.
Hey, we're not going to argue. They are really cute. They are western pond turtles, and for over 20 years, the Oregon Zoo has played a significant role in helping the species survive. We're going to pay a visit to the zoo this morning to find out more about the Western Pond Turtle Head Start program. We have that segment coming up here at 5:15.
Also this morning, crews are putting those finishing touches on the floats for the Grand Floral Parade. It is a huge job, and they say they need some last-minute volunteers. We have details on how you can help. Plus, we're going to snoop around in that float barn this morning and give you a preview of some of the cool stuff you'll see when the parade rolls at 10 o'clock Saturday morning.
it is always amazing how they put every petal and leaf and flower on those things. Yeah, we're very excited. Good morning to you on this Thursday. Around here, we like to call it Friday Eve because we get excited for the weekend. Chris McGinnis in for Rod again today. How we looking?
And some good news, I think for the Grand Floral Parade.
That's good.
In that I think Saturday is going to wind up being the nicer day this weekend and probably nicer than what tomorrow looks like in terms of rainfall.
We need a 3-hour window.
That's
like 10
good.
a.m. to 1
We
p.m.
might be able to manage that. And we've got a 3-hour window plus this morning of dry weather. I wanted to start off with this. This is a really pretty shot from our Stoller Vineyard looking at the top of Mount Jefferson this morning. Isn't that cool? You can also see a little bit of a cloud cap forming there as the high overcast moves in. We were off to another mild start, 61 at the airport anyway, 54 Astoria. Pendleton sits at 58. All right, the plan for today, mild for sure. Clouds increase through the day. We're dry here in the Portland metro area through lunchtime. The clouds really thicken up this afternoon. And guys, we have rain in the forecast tonight, and that could be quite heavy for some of us. I'll walk you through that with Futurecast and have a look ahead to the weekend in just a few minutes.
Sounds good, Chris. Thank you. Later today, the January 6th Congressional Committee will hold its first of several hearings related to the 2021 attack on the Capitol in D.C.
Yeah, committee members reviewed more than 140,000 documents. They also talked to hundreds of witnesses, and they're now set to present all of that evidence to the public for the first time. Some of the new evidence revealed in these hearings is expected to put former President Donald Trump at the center of those January 6th efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Over the next several weeks, we're going to hear from witnesses who were at the Capitol that day. Now, the hearings start at 5 o'clock our time, so because of that, our local news lineup will be impacted tonight. We'll still have our news at 4 p.m. After that, though, it's 2 hours of live NBC coverage of the committee hearing, and then we'll have a special edition of KGW News at 7 p.m.
Well, you might remember 8 people from Oregon and Southwest Washington were charged as part of the investigation into the insurrection. A father and son from Battleground are set to accept plea deals with federal prosecutors for their role. Jeff and Jeremy Grace appeared in selfie-style photos both in and outside the Capitol building that day. In April, Jeremy pleaded guilty to 1 count of entering and remaining in a restricted building. As part of that deal, prosecutors dropped 3 other charges. So he'll be sentenced coming up here on July 8th. He faces 6 months in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. His father, Jeff, is scheduled for a plea hearing on June 17th. For a more in-depth look at each of those cases and the 6 others involved, just look for the story on the front page of our website, kgw.com.
In the wake of a string of mass shootings here in the U.S., survivors and families who lost loved ones are sharing their trauma. Victims' families are telling their stories, hoping it will change the nation's gun laws. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington with the details.
Door between our classrooms.
Emotional testimony from victims of mass shootings.
Shot my teacher and told my teacher goodnight and shot her in the head.
4th grader Mia Cerrillo appearing by video and recalling the horrifying moments a gunman entered her Texas elementary school. Out of desperation, the 11-year-old played dead to survive.
I thought he was going to come back to the room, So I grabbed the blood and put it all over me.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Uvalde's only pediatrician describing the horrors he saw.
2 children whose bodies had been pulverized by bullets fired at them, decapitated, whose flesh had been ripped apart, that the only clue as their identities was a blood-splattered cartoon clothes still clinging to them.
Heartbroken parents say Congress must take action against gun violence.
To some people, to people with money, to people who fund political campaigns, that guns are more important than children.
The moving testimony not necessarily moving Republicans on gun reform measures.
I think it's a mistake to infringe the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens.
Bipartisan negotiations continue over proposals including red flag laws and increasing school security.
Do you feel safe at school? Why not?
Because I don't want it to happen again.
And you think it's going to happen again?
Lawmakers are aiming for the end of this week to finalize negotiations.
Your thoughts and prayers are not enough.
Families sharing stories of heartbreak hope their testimonies change minds and federal laws. In Washington, Bree Jackson for NBC News.
Let's take a look now at some of this morning's local headlines. We start with Multnomah County Commissioners voting today on a resolution to ensure access to abortion services. The vote is in response to last month's leaked Supreme Court draft opinion about overturning Roe v. Wade. Yesterday, county commissioners approved $200,000 in funding that will help around 300 to 400 people. The money can be used to provide things like transportation for patients or housing and lodging. Meanwhile, former presidential candidate Andrew Yang says he's endorsing Betsy Johnson for Oregon governor. Yang ran as a Democrat in the 2020 presidential election, and he also ran for mayor of New York City last year. Johnson is one of 3 candidates running for Oregon governor. Former House Speaker, that is, Tina Kotek, and former House Republican leader Christine Drazan will also appear on the ballot this November. Finally here, the city of Vancouver passed an ordinance this week that prevents protests at the homes of city officials. That includes city attorneys, volunteers, and the mayor. The ordinance also allows the city to take legal action on behalf of public employees who are individually targeted by protests. Protests and targeted picketing are still allowed at places like public parks and in front of City Hall, just not in residential areas. And that's a look at some of this morning's local headlines.
Vancouver police are putting a stop to a social media post that turned out to be a hoax. A KGW viewer found the post on Facebook. It claimed 4 girls had been murdered, but police want to make sure people know that is not true, and they're warning the public about the dangers of misinformation. We talked to a social media expert at OSU who reminds you it's really important to fact check with a variety of sources.
If reliable sources don't say it, it's probably not happening. 2, look for your red flags. Your red flags are especially absurd claims or someone trying to get you to a new source or website. And finally, 3rd, be proactive. Do what you need to do to have a really strong information diet that includes a variety of sources.
Vancouver police say they don't know where the rumor started or the intent of the person who started it.
Let's talk schools now because there's a big update for Portland Public Schools. The largest district in Oregon is adopting brand new curriculum and teaching framework across all its schools. So district officials say they've noticed academic gaps among students of different races. To change that, they're taking a 3-prong approach that includes a brand new curriculum, an instructional framework, and training for teachers.
Portland Public Schools is on track to implement updated, culturally relevant curricular materials in English, language arts, and math at all levels by the start of the 2022-2023 school year.
District leaders believe this approach will help diversify the curriculum. At the elementary level, students will talk more with one another and learn through more hands-on work. This new curriculum will be funded by a bond passed recently, which designated $53 million specifically for the adoption of this new curriculum.
All right, before we get to our local weather forecast, we want to take a look at this damage. Serious damage caused by a tornado in Ohio. It basically tore this distribution facility to shreds. Apparently, there were more than 50 people working inside at the time. Can you imagine that? Yet somehow nobody inside that facility was hurt. We know severe weather season definitely in full force there in the upper Midwest.
So
I couldn't tell what I was looking at first.
Right.
Those are the concrete, sides of the walls.
But the sirens went off, and so people had a chance to get to safety.
Okay.
So all 50 of them were safe, but that is crazy.
Yeah, and so a testament to being ready with severe weather alerts, et cetera, and then knowing and having a plan, right? Luckily, we don't have to deal with that type of severe weather often, but we've got our own interesting weather coming our way in terms of rain later today, guys. I want to get into that in a second, but first I'd start off with this gorgeous shot of Mount Jefferson. This now from Timberline, little cloud cap there showing the increasing moisture in the atmosphere above, right? The clouds are thickening, and that will set the stage for rain later today. In fact, in the gorge forecast shows increasing clouds, slight chance of a shower later today. Better chance for rain for you folks tonight. Temperatures climbing into the mid-70s. Central Oregon, one more day of bright, sunny, warm weather for you. You're going to be topping out in the mid-80s in Madras and Prineville today. Meanwhile, at the Oregon coast, you're already pretty cloudy. We could see some spotty showers this morning with rain increasing this afternoon at the beach. Up and down the I-5 corridor, our mild start will easily get us into the 70s today. I've got Portland around 73, 74 this afternoon, a little warmer down towards Eugene, a little cooler up towards Longview, where the rain could be impacting your area a little earlier. So where is the rain? Well, it's offshore still for most of us. In fact, western Washington's getting wet right now up towards the Olympic Peninsula, but there's a big plume of moisture here out over the Pacific. Call this a pineapple express, an atmospheric river, a fire hose. It is going to be pointed at the Pacific Northwest, and that is not something we typically say in June. That is more reminiscent of weather that we would see over the winter. So that's what kind of moisture this system has in it. And wherever it ultimately settles is the location that will probably see the highest amount of rain over the next 36 hours. It's possible northern Clark County, Cowlitz County, you see a sprinkle early this afternoon, but I think the metro area is generally dry for most of the day. North coast getting wet. We'll roll the clock into the early evening. Here we are at 8 o'clock, and you can see rain increasing in coverage and intensity here across the I-5 corridor. This is at 8. As I roll the clock into the evening hours, it is wet, 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 wet. We get a little break in the action, and part of Friday may wind up being dry, but then a second slug of moisture comes in on Friday afternoon, and the end result will be somewhere between a half an inch and an inch of rain in the Willamette Valley, we think, between late tonight and late Friday. Showers late today, 75. Cooler tomorrow. We may not even get into the 70s if there's enough cloud cover, and we keep on and off showers in our weekend forecast. Guys?
All right, Chris, thank you very much.
So when you hold them, they will try to kick. So just kind of like pinch them from the top and the bottom, and then you can go ahead and see how cute they are for yourself.
I will tell you that the TV reporter involved in the segment was not kicked during the making of the segment. Even if he was, I think he'd be okay, because that is one small animal we're talking about right there, a western pond turtle. They're listed as an endangered species in Washington, a sensitive species here in Oregon. We're going to find out what the Oregon Zoo is doing to help save these tiny turtles. Coming up right after this quick break.